Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hello, everybody. I am Ross Morasso. Welcome to the show once again with my guest today, Janis Reed, psychic and medium from Virginia in the great old United States. Here you can find her at psychic-medium-southwest-va.com. And we will fire that off a few more times. But Janis, let's just say she knows what she's talking about. Janis, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here. Well,
I've
been setting up for this. Talk to me.
Okay. So, every time we chat, I'm always left with other things in between our shows that kind of come to mind. And I was curious about when you work with a client who comes to see you, whether virtual or in person, are there any sort of rituals or practices that you do with the other person to help get us centered for a good reading?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yes. I like to breathe. A lot of people hold their breath. I like to breathe. A lot of people like to control their breath. I just like to breathe. When I work with somebody, though, I try to, before I call them to do the appointment, I try to get my own breathing in order. Say, get me calm, cool me down. I get excited, so I have to calm me down. And then I call the phone, and one ringy dingy dingy, two ringy dingy dingies, I count them down. However it is, I usually jerk it up, but I try to get my breathing in tune with my client. If I can get in tune with my client, well, then I'm more likely to say it in the right way, use their language, use their words, references, because I'm trying to meld with them. Interesting, funny, you asked about earlier, did I do something for general readings? Well, yeah, I breathe. And it's so funny that you had talked about what I do, because I've been pacing for the last 24 hours wondering, well, what am I going to talk about on Monday? Let's see. What's a really good, I know. And so periodically I remember and I say, yo, Great Spirit, why don't you talk to me and just whisper in this ear and tell me what I'm doing? And it said, breathe. And so I went and, I calmed down, get a little breath, pulled my own tarot cards out, pulled them out. What did I land on the table? One single card. It was the dolphin. The dolphin reminds us, to breathe. Long time ago, dolphin used to swim around in the oceans just minding her own business.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandmother Moon reached down into the ocean and she started creating the tides. And the movement of the tides created a language written right there on top of the seas. And Dolphin began to read that language and absorb it and began to sing in it and was able to breathe with Mother Moon, Grandmother Moon. And she learned all of the stories that Grandmother Moon wrote into the tides and the script of the seas. But then Grandmother Moon, as moons do, she closed her eyes and Dolphin couldn't see her and she was dark. And so Dolphin started lamenting in the seas. Oh, will I ever find such great stories? I'll never be able to read those stories again. It's dark. I'm going blind. And Whale swam up and said, yo, breathe. Just breathe, baby. Breathe and remember. And if you breathe in tune with Grandmother Moon, you'll remember the languages. You'll remember the stories because you're in tune with the moon. When we tune to someone that we're working with, we get into the same kind of rhythmic breathing as them. When we do that, we tune in, literally. Now, on a completely personal observation note here that's got nothing to do with anything scientific particularly yet, from my discoveries, breath is the very first survival. That's what we do to survive. We breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why would we breathe instead of having to eat something or drink something or hear something? I mean, what's the deal with the breath? Why is that one so important? It's because all things breathe. By knowing what is around us, by the smells we pick up, we don't just breathe. We smell our surroundings. We smell the oxygen and air. What you exhale way over yonder, I will inhale eventually over here, and
Hmm.
vice versa. Same with the birds, the voles, the monkeys, the elephants, the crocodiles. Name anything that consumes air, plant, and we are able to breathe with intention to get into rhythm with that. That's what really great readers do, really great psychics and intuitives. We all have that in common. We breathe. Mm-hmm. As a crazy woman, though, I see breath as not just breath. It's the survival mechanism to smell where your enemies are, to smell where the sweet waters are, to smell where the food is, what feeds us. Now, in our very civilized states of minds with our high rises and our fancy computers and our talking rocks, people have kind of just, well, it's just breathing. Everybody does it. But we've forgotten why we do it and how we can get out of it, what we can do by remembering how we breathe when we're not trying to breathe with somebody else. Like I'm breathing with you right now. I'm trying to be in sync with you and, at least two or three other people listening to just kind of get into the same headspace so that we can breathe in and out in conjunction with each other to help each other, serve each other. It isn't just breath, it is minute information that only somebody really paying attention is going to notice. Other people say, "Why are you gasping? Why did you sigh?" Well, okay, we notice the big actions when we shift our breath, but to just know what our breath is, do that as you're going to sleep. Do that first thing in the morning before you put your feet on the floor. Don't change your breathing. Just notice your breathing. You're doing it, aren't you? If you're not, call 911. But we once we start thinking of other things in the world, we connect with other things in the world and we start breathing with them and we forget our own breath. We hold our breath so that we can get in rhythm with others. I would suggest today, for today's suggestion, happy homework is to practice breathing, not because you can control it, but every once in a while during the day to day, notice what's happening. You're doing it like when you're on the computer or on the royal throne in the small room of the house. We breathe and it relaxes us when we get into our own rhythm. Our own rhythm will match us up to the rhythm of all that is, the planet, of its occupants. We tune in to the planet. When we do that by recognizing that we're all sharing the oxygen, we're all breathing the same. Me and Kim Jong, he doesn't know this yet, but we're breathing the same air. You know, while people, we share that and we acknowledge that that's what we're doing. Like right now, we're breathing the air. Everybody breathed at the Grammys last night. Is that cool or
Hmm.
what? I mean, I'm breathing that dress Beyonce wore. Whoa. I feel beautiful because I'm breathing beautiful air. That's what I'm thinking about. So that's the beautiful air that comes to me. If I think of bad things, I'll get all coffee and weird. So I think of the good things. Think of good things will show up in your life, even if it's only a breath of air. Isn't that just amazing?
I wonder, science has proven something called cellular memory, right? Like we always have our brain holds
Oh,
all of
yeah.
our memories. But while that's true, we now know our heart and our liver and other things,
Mm-hmm.
can store memories or at least also duplicate our memories. But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, it's just a big glob of molecules, right? That's doing something. And when we breathe in, there's oxygen molecules coming in. And even though we exhale CO2, we also exhale out some oxygen that didn't get processed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I wonder now when we're in a community space, sometimes we can pick up a vibe, right? Like we just sort of feel
Mm-hmm.
like people are having a good time or a bad time or whatever.
Right.
And I wonder how much of that vibe we're getting is because of the actual air around us that we're breathing in.
Yes. That's exactly what happens. When you're in a big crowd and oh man, Woodstock, I was so loaded. I was floating around. I hadn't even touched any drugs yet, but I was so high because everybody around me was. We get into that kind of, rock music, big concert situations, and we notice that our whole mental attitude changes. We are in response to all those drugs floating through the air, whether we're breathing them or not. It goes right up our nose and hits us in the brain pan, and we pick up information. We do.
So how can we use it to like give out communication? Does it just naturally work the same way? Are we always communicating when we're exhaling out into the world?
Yeah. Yeah. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. That's why each of us has the opportunity to be the lead bull and turn the herd. People right now are very interested in high drama breathing.
Hmm.
Really make you do that. Worries, gosh, the Grammys, beautiful. Emotional highs pull our breath with it. Fear, worry pulls our breath with it. We shut it down, we bring it up. Do we breathe from our belly or from up here in our chest? The deeper we breathe, the more oxygen we pull in and out of our skins, out of our bodies, the more information we pull in and out of our skins. What I exhale, that matters just as much as what I inhale. So if I can maintain some semblance of calm, I actually practice praying without ceasing just to see if I can, because I'm that kind of person.
Praying without what?
Without ceasing, without stopping.
Oh,
I I I read that in a Bible of somebody sometime, and I just thought that was so cool to pray without ceasing, to just make that be what I do today, or for the next 10 minutes, or whatever I got while I'm in the car. To send that out, to breathe out prayers of acceptance, gratitude. Sometimes I'm very, very grateful that that person is way the heck over there instead of sitting next to me. And so I'm grateful. Whatever I can find, I breathe grateful. And that is, in a sense, praying, accepting good things, and pushing good things from my breath back out into the world. It's magical and
so what do we
medicinal.
do though when we start being around situations or, there is a lot of chaos or counterproductive things and events going on in the world? I think about the war in Ukraine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of breath coming out from a
Yeah.
lot of people who wish something else was going on. In a small way, two things. Is there something that we can do in addition to all the other support that we're doing? Is there a way that our breath can create these sort of like micro positivity? And then also looking at it in that way, even people who are not ill intended, the Ukrainians defending their homeland probably are breathing out a lot of stuff that we don't want to take in, but they don't mean us any harm by it. But there you have it, because they're in the ravages of war. And again, just using this as an example, can we protect ourselves? So the second part is, can we protect ourselves from the air that's out there along the way? Because, as you said, we do have to keep breathing, right?
We do have to breathe, and sometimes we have to breathe in somebody else's fear.
Hmm.
I think in Ukraine, what they're breathing is just mad, just pure. How dare somebody come and
Sure.
try to trick them? And so they are breathing in a very pure survivalist forms. They're smelling out their enemies and their safe spots too. And they're so emotionally wrapped up in this anger, just that they're surviving, and they are succeeding where they other people thought, well, they were just going to be crushed easily because they were only being led by a comedian. They've never met a comedian.
That's
Um,
interesting that you mentioned this, right? Because maybe sometimes what we're exhaling, I say counterproductive or negative or whatever. I mean, maybe it's possible that, what's coming out of their breath is determination, commitment.
yeah, yeah. Um, we can notice when it's not our breath, when we suddenly feel our emotions shift. If we can calm our own breath back down, it's sort of an answer, an antidote to the fear. The more and more people who are practiced in shifting their breath back to normal, and anybody anywhere, if people in general can even just remember or go, oh wow, I didn't know that, you can change the way you relate to the world by changing the way you breathe. This is what I do. This is like magical psychic stuff I'm giving away for free here.
So,
It's amazing.
for those of us who didn't tune in exactly at the top of the, or say at the bottom of the hour here, I'm talking to Janis Reed. She is a medium and a psychic out of Virginia, West Virginia, right? No, Western
Western.
Grayson County of Virginia. That's where it comes from. And you can find her at psychic-medium-southwest-va.com. Again,
You know what?
psychic.
You know
Yeah, go
what?
ahead.
Email me.
All right.
Email me. Send
You
me
can
an
email her
email
at
to Janice
goddessjanice.
Reed, goddessjanice@hotmail.com. Find me on Facebook. I got to get a shorter name for that.
Well, it's easy to remember. It's a lot to type, but easy to remember. So goddessjanice@hotmail.com. So let me ask you
That's
now, when
me.
you get communications from the other side, when you're doing a one-on-one reading, I get that. That is uh, probably more often very focused in what you are doing. When you are not working one-on-one with a client, do you ever get communications from the energies around us that don't necessarily deal with a specific person, that are sort of coming
Oh,
to
yeah.
you about either a group of us or society or like the world as a whole?
Yeah, I get voices. Sometimes, and I get figures. I had a a recently deceased wife stand at the top of the stairs I was about to walk up, put her hands on her hips, and ask me just who did I think I was.
Mm.
Well, I explained who I was because, I knew about her. I had never met her. And she watched and stared at me I mean, she literally stared at me as I put my suitcase on that bed in this man's house. My husband and I had both come to
Mm.
visit him, and she didn't never met me. So she checked me all out. I went back downstairs eventually and casually mentioned that I had seen the woman at the top of the stairs. She was, and I described, and they were, oh, wow, that was so and so. And yeah, she had read me the riot act. I had to behave myself. Eventually, she and I together kind of helped pick out his next wife. So it was a rolling conversation. It was because of the way she had grown in her skin, the way she had developed her spirit, to say, while she was still breathing. When she stopped breathing and slipped her skin, her consciousness remained with him, because she was determined to make sure he was going to be okay without her.
So would I assume then that her death was untimely?
Yeah, it was a cancer. It was seen coming.
So it was
Um,
before everybody wanted it to be, but yeah, you could see it coming.
yeah, yeah,
Do
a
spirits
lot,
often
lot.
hang out like that
Yeah,
after?
yeah. If they've got something that's important to do, um, if they don't, they zip out. I got to help a dear friend pass. I I knew that it was coming. At least he didn't die on my birthday.
Mm.
He and I had made a pact, or I told him several years earlier when he first discovered he had cancer that I would help him have a good death. And everybody else kind of moved away from me. Some people have never talked to me again. What the heck did that mean? Well, I helped him have a good death. I went over. in my skin and out of my skin. And I visited and we established a rapport. And on the day of his death, I got up, drove my car to the end of his very long driveway and blocked the driveway. That's what Spirit said, do. Just stop here and just wait a minute. So I'm sitting there at the end of this very long driveway, and a car pulled up behind me. And they couldn't get around me, so they had to just stop. I was blocking the driveway. And it's something in my head said, okay, now you better hurry. And so I gunned the car because I knew who was behind me and I did not want them to pass me. I gunned the car, pulled up to the house, jumped out of the car, opened up the front door, and his wife fell into my arms. The stairs going up to the bedroom ended at the front door, and we met right there. She said, he's gone. He just left. So literally, I had been waiting at the end of the driveway so that this other car would not interrupt his passing. I took my stuff. I had come prepared to pass his spirit and took my little doodads upstairs to him. And
Mm-hmm.
there he lay with his mouth open, just like he was a talker. And I did some things I won't describe here and did little rituals and said, okay, Henry, you can go now. And turned around to leave the room. I had opened the window. I had rung the bells and pulled the spirit stall towards the window, and nothing had happened. And okay, that's fine. So I turned around to leave and wait for it out in the hall. I wanted to see what happened. And I looked around behind me as an explosion burst out of his chest. It would have made the glory of Hiroshima look like child's play. It just exploded, this huge light,
Mm.
nearly blinded me, burst out of his chest, zipped around the room. I could clearly hear yee-haw, and it whipped out the window. There went Henry. This was the passing of Henry Baldock, for those that knew him. He had a great death. He got to do the whoop-de-doo and zip out of the room and leave. He's shown up 2 or 3 times to his wife and I since then, just checking.
And his wife's noticed this?
Yes, he turned the radio on for the few years after he died. The day she would forget that that was the day of his passing, and the radio would turn on, which would not have been nearly as funny, except it was broken, not plugged in.
Wow.
Yep, it went 2 or 3 years at least. The radio would come on. She finally got rid of the radio, I think. I'm not sure, but it was not. I went over there. It wasn't even plugged in. It would come on.
Now, Janis, do you believe in reincarnation and additional lives?
Oh yes,
I
I came
figured,
into remembering mine.
right? Is there any sort of timing generally for how long it, or is it always different with every, with every life, or life form, right? Every spirit, for how long they choose to stay in the beyond before coming back to give it another go?
It seems to be. It seems to be in the roughest terms. We're all sort of in school,
Hmm.
and this schoolroom Earth is where we get to play with the solids. There's still more schoolroom once we slip our skins. When when God sneezed or whatever happened and the Big Bang occurred, the imagination, God's holograms shot off into everywhere. The little pieces of cell structures, star stuff. God shot everywhere. And so we're all a part of that. We're all connected there. And we all breathe that connectivity.
Hmm.
Um, so I've lost the trail of my questions now.
Well, it's
We can
about
do
how
that.
long, is there any sort of, and I realize it probably fluctuates from time to time, but
Oh, it
how
does.
long it
It
takes for
does.
us to come back down to the world of the solids, as you say.
Well, it depends on us, really. It's this is where free will steps in. Information is not forced upon us. We can hold our breath until we turn blue.
Hmm.
Then we'll breathe again anyway. But the information that comes with our breathing, we can let it change us. We can ignore it. We can recognize that it's not ours, recognize that it's information we need to hear.
Yeah, we only have a few minutes left because one of the reasons I'm asking this is, have you ever done readings, especially maybe earlier on, like in your career when you weren't as experienced as you are now, and you started catching these, I always say vibes, it's probably a clunky word, but you start getting these communications of vibes, what have you, during a reading, but they didn't seem to make that much sense in the reading. And then you come to have learned that it was definitely poignant to this person in front of you,
Yeah.
except it was from a previous life, and that kind of threw you off for a minute.
Yes, yes. When I read for other people, I read for that entity, sometimes many lifetimes before they were in this one. It all flops in together. Um, I read where they are, where their education level is spiritually, I guess. Help them figure out what they want to do next. Not everybody knows everything all at the same time. Just because you're dead doesn't make you smart. Kind of like just because you're breathing doesn't make you smart.
Just go to like the old soul, young soul. You can kind of tell maybe how long we've or what our sort of cosmic progress is being.
I got issues with that because it
Okay.
seems like if all the explosions happened at once. Okay, I've seen fireworks, maybe they're secondary explosions. I don't know, but we're all trying to get ourselves pulled back together again so that we can recreate home, spirit, Godhead, God, Nirvana, Shangri-La, that place of perfection that we all think we might be able to attain if we just try real hard.
Mm. It's a
But we all
fool's
get there.
errand.
Well, everybody's on their own speed,
Right.
and some people are born really, really beautiful on the outside. And some people are born really, really beautiful on the inside. Some people mesh it up. Those are the people that, they look pretty. They're always sweet. Um, she married some Prince of Monaco. Different people are like that. So we're all different places in the school grounds.
But we're right where we need to be.
We are where we need to be, us, right now. That's why if we breathe into who we are now, and really let ourselves breathe. This is who I am today. What is that? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does that remind me of? We can strengthen who we are this moment by gathering help from all of our previous life experiences, by just remembering our original breath.
I like that. And we're going to have to leave it there, Janis. Janis Reed, everybody. Always welcome back to the show whenever you want to come, Janis. I really enjoy
Thank
our
you.
conversations that we have. And you can look her up at
Oh,
Goddess
please.
Janis at Hotmail. Just said, to send her an email directly, virtual readings, in-person readings. If you are in the Virginia area, I know you won't be sorry. Janis, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate you.
That is why you are here. And thank you all for listening
let me
today.
just leave everybody with this. Just take a breath in and a breath out. Let's just try that. And your shoulders drop. And you suck it in through your belly and you let it out through your shoulders and nose, and it feels good.
It does.
Breathe on, breathe on.
You all have a
Power to the
great day,
breath.
everybody. I'm Ross Barrasso. We do got to run. Until next time.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.